Mia decided to visit the New Moon district. As Mia explores the district, she's greeted warmly by a once-starving boy she saved, and gives her a cherished hairpin made from the rare unicorn horn tree native to the Sealence Forest. The local priest explained that the boy's tragic backstory and fangirled embarrassingly over Rafina. Mia learns the hairpin was a keepsake from the boy's mother, raising alarm bells about her fatal future as written in her diary. Still, she vows to treasure it to build goodwill and possibly avoid disaster. Meanwhile, the arrogant Viscount Berman schemed to clear the Sealence Forest, home of the Lulu tribe, for land expansion and planned to manipulate Mia using a flashy unicorn horn hairpin as bait. However, when he presented the gift, Mia, aware of the tree's significance, unexpectedly demanded to inspect the forest herself.
There exists an exclusive group of knights called the Princess Guard, a special unit formed from Ludwig's request to respond to the whims of Princess Mia at any time. Protected by these loyal knights, Mia boarded her carriage and set out to the territory of Viscount Berman.
My. It has been an hour since I gave the order, and we are already on the road. Very impressive, Ludwig.
Not at all, Your Highness. I learned from the past experiences. Besides, your visit to the slum the other day was particularly educational. Ludwig had a certain degree of confidence that Mia's actions are basically error-free and that they are based on wisdom and virtue. As a talented official, Ludwig has a good grasp of the problems that were occurring in Viscount Berman territory. So, when the Viscount came to visit Mia, he expected something to happen and began preparations in advance. Still, I wish he'd give the rest of us a little bit more to work with. It was fine this time because I had prior information, but then again, it is my duty as her vassal to be able to accurately interpret Her Highness' intentions. Ludwig noticed that sometimes Mia's logic takes a big leap that he had trouble keeping up. The sheer speed at which her mind worked blinded her to the clefts of reasoning that she's clear with ease, but others struggle to cross. She was always thinking 1 or 2 moves ahead of others, and to think that she's still young. Should she continue to grow and mature, she would surely become a most sagacious monarch. Ludwig's expectation and loyalty grew unchecked.
Well then, Ludwig, I'd very much appreciate it if you could tell me about Viscount Berman and his domain.
This is Her Highness speaking. Surely she already knows about what is happening in Viscount Berman's territory, and yet she's still asking me? Mia gave him an innocent smile. It was a smile with a childlike innocence, the kind that was at once endearing and suggestive of an absence of thought. It almost seemed sincere, which made Ludwig all the more daring to imagine the distant kaleidoscope of thoughts that his sharp brain could not fathom. Ludwig tried to interpret Mia's words for asking such an obvious question so as to be able to act accordingly. But the sad truth is that he could not understand half of what she was thinking. If I had to guess, maybe she wants a summary so that she can check the accuracy of her information against mine. Or maybe she wants me to talk about it so she can think about a solution in greater detail. Then allow me to explain. The Viscount Berman is... While listening to Ludwig's story, Mia felt a cold sweat dripping down her spine. And that's more or less the extent of the information I have.
Holy moons, that was freaking close.
She mutters some inappropriate words in her heart. However, her reaction is not unreasonable. What Ludwig described was riddled with red flags, each more guillotine than the last. Ludwig explained that Viscount Berman planned to cut down a portion of the Sealence Forest, which would require the forceful expulsion of the Lulu tribe for that purpose. And he was planning to do this all with the explicit approval of Princess Mia. The Lulu tribe happened to live next to the territory of Count Rudelman. Mia read the passages in her diary many times over and over again, yet she couldn't remember such an event happening. To think that so much had been brewing under her nose, and she had been completely clueless until now.
I see. If this is true, And this might be the reason why my relationship with Tiona turned sour.
Regardless of the previous timeline where she was never friends with Tiona, according to the diary which foretells the current timeline, her relationship with Tiona was broken. Mia had always wondered what caused it. After all, there were no signs of it during the time of school.
The mystery has been solved. Viscount Berman, it is all your fault.
A wave of rolling anger began to rise from within her. Ludwig noticed this and started praising Mia for such righteous anger. Ludwig assumed that Mia was angry because of this blatant injustice by a noble. However, he didn't know that Mia was just angry because Viscount Berman is the cause for her getting closer to the guillotine. That's all I know. At this stage, I'm sure the fault lies with Viscount Berman, but Ludwig cut his words there without finishing his sentence. Knowing the problem is one thing, finding a solution to the problem is another one. In fact, finding a solution is where the difficulty begins to increase. What Viscount Berman was trying to do was more of a grayson than wrong. Clearing the forest to gain more land is not necessarily a bad thing. As long as it was in his territory, it was technically none of their business. The border with Count Rudelborn is certainly ambiguous, so it's hard to say where the border is. The only opposing voices are the minority tribe of Lulu, and it is certain that the central government will support him against them. In fact, they have already dispatched forces to do this. Furthermore, this military force is another problem. Since they have already been dispatched, they cannot just withdraw without a reason or without achieving their goal that peace has been restored. Ludwig couldn't think of a way to solve all these problems, and so, Your Highness, what are you going to do now?
What do you mean, what am I going to do? I'm going to teach him a damn good lesson,
declared Mia, her nostrils flaring in anger. When it came to Princess Mia oppositors, two of them were widely known to bring her down, Sian Sungland and Tiona Rudelman. However, neither of them stood at the guillotine on the final day of her life. Her execution itself was carried out by someone else. The one who had the grisly honor of lopping off the young lady's head was a man by the name of Dion Alaya, an Imperial Army officer who joined the Revolutionary Army as soon as the revolution began. He played a major role in killing famous generals with his sword and destroying the Imperial Army. The reward he sought as one of the greatest contributors of the Revolutionary Army was the head of Princess Mia. At first, Sion was perplexed when he heard his wish. However, his motivation became much clearer when he heard about what happened in the past. A conflict initiated by Mia's selfishness, the Battle of Sealence Forest. All his men were annihilated. He was the only one who survived. The death of his men was his motivation to accept the loving arms of the Revolutionary Army. Why is it that I haven't heard the sounds of battle? Did the army send a bunch of loafers instead of soldiers?
As I have mentioned before, our purpose is to maintain peace. I believe it is necessary to engage in unnecessary hostilities.
He bowed his head politely, feeling rather proud of himself for not asking the Viscount if he was going senile, considering Dion had said the same thing only a few days ago. He was actually quite proud of himself. He was totally nailing the whole being a responsible adult thing. He was keeping his calm against the Viscount's unreasonable demand, but his patience was almost reaching its limit.
That forest is the territory of the Lulu tribe. If we decide to go to battle against them, we will suffer significant casualties.
The way he saw it, he was confident he would survive by himself, but bringing his subordinates back unharmed was going to be a tall order. Aren't soldiers supposed to live for their lord? Who do you think is feeding you?
We are the soldiers of His Majesty the Emperor, so he is our lord. I'm sure you are not that ignorant, Viscount.
If looks could kill, the Viscount's glare would have killed Dion at the spot. Dion shrugged it off and continued.
We have been ordered by the Black Moon Ministry, which is His Majesty's military department, and the order we received was to maintain the security of the forest. It would be against His Majesty's wishes if we were to start a war without permission.
Ah! Enough! Be gone already!
Damn nobles. They order us to kill each other as if it's just for fun. Why don't they try doing it themselves?
Oh, Captain, Are you done? Dion found a large soldier waiting for him at the gate. The soldier started rushing towards him. Everything about the man, from his imposing figure to his burly beard, gave the impression that he was a bandit. Everything except for his eyes, which had the sharpness of a trained soldier. So, how'd he go?
Same old. I told him that it's too dangerous to fight in that forest. If that happens, the two of us are probably the only ones who can make it out alive.
Sure, we will survive, but we can have that now, can we? It will surely look bad if only the captain and the beast captain walk out alive.
Gotta say, though, considering he went so far as to pay a personal visit to the Imperial City, I was expecting him to come back with a direct order from His Majesty's or something. But it seems that it didn't work out very well.
I wouldn't be so sure about that, Captain.
What do you...
Dion's question was cut short at the sight of a group of people approaching them. They were clearly knights, but they wore beautiful ceremonial armor different from the rest of the Imperial army. There was only one group who wore such impractical beautiful armor, the most loyal knights of the Imperial army, those who were tasked with protecting the Imperial family.
The Imperial Guard.
It sure is. According to rumors, Her Royal Highness is coming here personally on an inspection visit.
Well, isn't that just marvelous?
Captain, you better put that frown upside down. Don't want to be looking disrespectful towards the princess after she came all the way to see us.
Sorry, but I've been through enough crap already to get excited about princes and princesses and all that garbage. Besides...
Yeah, I know. Smells fishy, doesn't it?
Timing is too perfect. Berman just returned from the Imperial City and now the princess is arriving? Well, let's see what kind of nonsense the Viscount told the princess.
Don't they say that Her Highness the Princess is some sort of scholar? Like, she's very smart.
Here are some words of advice for you. Nothing in this world is ever the way you hope it would be.
Now, that's a pessimistic way of looking at things. Which philosopher said that?
I did. Wishful thinking usually ends with disappointment. That said, it's also how I got so good with the sword, so it's not all bad.
In short, does that mean you need to have enough skill to handle whatever happens?
Yeah, sure.
That's exactly the kind of philosophy that I would expect from the philosopher Dionysus. At that time, a little girl appeared closely flanked by guards.
So that is Princess Mia, huh?
Dion looked at her just in time for Mia to raise her face and meet his stare. For some reason, Princess Mia fainted. Everyone looked at each other. So, what should we do now, Captain?
I don't know. Same as the princess, I guess. Heavenly Moons! Why is he, of all people, here?
After recovering from her blackout, Mia found herself face to face with Dion.
I'm glad to see you're alright, Your Highness. I'm honored to be graced by your presence. I'm Dion Alaya.
With a friendly smile, Dion bowed. His smile was perfect. It didn't show a single shred of hostility. However, Mia only felt horror seeing his smile. It was as if that smile pierced through her. Looking at his face, she seemed to recall the feeling of a cold blade on the nape of her neck.
I'm in command of the Imperial Army dispatched here. The army sent us to... Your Highness? Is something the matter?
Mia snapped back to attention and looked at him. There, right in front of her, was Dion. The sight of him was so terrifying, as if he was looking straight to Mia's heart. She felt her legs turn to jelly, and she would have landed on her bump had the large beast captain nearby not caught her as she fell. Are you okay, Your Highness? Did the carriage ride make you sick? She didn't even hear the vice captain's words of concern for her. She couldn't take her eyes off Dion. Dion raised an eyebrow.
Is there something on my face? No, it's nothing. This vice captain of yours is a bear of a man, and he looks a little scary.
A bear, huh? Can't argue with that. I'm sure the princess is scared of my face. The vice captain gave out a hearty laugh, but Dion didn't join. Instead, he kept his eyes on Mia, calmly appraising her.
She's lying. She's not afraid of Vanos. This whole time, she's been scared of me.
If Dion's assumption were correct, then he has to give credit to Mia for having a rather keen pair of eyes. She was right to be afraid of him. Vanos, the vice captain, might look like a villain, but he's a total softie with children. He will not raise his hand against Mia unless she does something atrocious. For example, even if Mia were to attack him with a weapon, he will only aim for her weapon to try and disarm her. He was a gentle giant. On the other hand, at first glance, Captain Dion looks every bit of a gentleman, but he will kill anyone mercilessly, even if that someone is a child, if necessary. If an opponent comes to kill him with a weapon, then he will not be forgiven. Moreover, Dion is overwhelmingly superior in terms of strength to Vanos. Therefore, she was absolutely correct in directing her fear and cautious his way. But
it's one thing for a warrior to suss out my threat level on the battlefield, but this is a princess we're talking about, born and raised in the pampered environment of the imperial court. If she managed to figure that out, then she is the one who should not be underestimated.
His silent pondering was interrupted when a young civilian wearing glasses who accompanied the princess suddenly spoke up. Your Highness, I suggest you go to the forest for an inspection with Captain Dion.
Eh?
Mia gave Ludwig a dumb look as she let out a confused yelp.
Oh, a joke. I didn't realize this stupid Four Eyes could crack a joke. It is a bad taste, though.
For a moment, Mia was about to escape from reality, but Ludwig's next sentence blocked the attempt. If your Highness goes to the Viscount residence right now, then he might interfere with your plans. Going to the Sealence Forest in secret now should give you a better grasp of the situation. Realizing that Ludwig really meant what he was saying, she started to panic.
Wait! Stop right there. Ludwig, right? I know you have plans, but it isn't that simple. And you do realize that if I take Her Highness into the forest, it will only be me guarding her.
What do you mean? We, in the Princess Guard, will naturally accompany Her Highness.
Your armor's too noticeable, and it looks intimidating. The forest is in a tense state right now. Can you take responsibility when the war begins, stimulating the Lulu tribe? Unless you take off your armor. But can you? That armor is a symbol of the Imperial Guard. Can you take it off?
If we have to do that, then we will do it. Our pride lies not in what we wear, but in who we follow. And we follow Her Highness. Princess Guard, disarm! Take off your armor, carry only your swords, and continue to follow Her Highness.
Sir, yes, sir!
His order was immediately met with a flurry of motion as the guards began to undo their suits of mail. Not a man hesitated. Dion's eyes opened with amazement. Speaking of the Royal Guards, it is an elite group known for their fierce loyalty and strength, but they are also known for their supreme pride. Nevertheless, their behavior...
No way. Is their devotion to Princess Mia even greater than their pride?
That's quite enough, Guard Captain. You have made your point by showing your loyalty to Her Highness. But you have to come with us on a distraction for Viscount Berman. But, with all due respect, sir, that's 2 men. Only 2 of your men might accompany the princess. The rest will be with us, heading to the Viscount residence. So, Captain Dion, is that to your satisfaction?
Bloody moons. I guess now I can't say no.
Dion answered with a voice of resignation. The way Ludwig handled the conversation barely gave him a room to negotiate. Besides, he was getting a little interested in the little princess who commanded such devotion to her guards. Excellent. Well, there you have it, Your Highness. Do you have any other concerns? Mia looked at him. Through sheer willpower, she managed a strange smile and refrained from speaking.
Are you kidding me? Do I have any concerns? I sure do, buddy.
She instead decided to scream her grievances inside her own head. She was perceptive enough to recognize that this was a done deal and no further input to the contrary would be allowed. Still, that didn't stop her from complaining the whole time, at least in her head.
I have nothing but concern about this, damn it.
For the rest of the conversation, she continued to smile while the boys in her head howl in dismay.
How in the moons did it come to this?
She sighed a little while riding on horseback. The man leading the group was the very man who detached her head from the rest of her body, Captain Dian. Never in her wildest nightmares did she imagine she would one day have him as a guide. The thought made her feel particularly miserable, and she let herself be swayed by the horse. Hey, princess, your horse riding is quite good. You are relaxed and letting the horse move freely. Most noble ladies don't know such a basic skill.
Oh my, I thank you for that compliment.
Mia returned a nod to the bandit-looking vice captain. As far as Mia can tell, aside from his appearance, he's not a bad person. He has been looking after her since earlier. Besides, since he's the vice captain, this means that he's in a position to check on Dian. In case of emergency, she can use him to keep Dian under control to some degree. Mia's intuition tells her to get on the good side of this vice captain. It might have actually been her ego talking after being complimented on her horsemanship, but whatever. Even if it's the summer vacation, Mia continues to practice riding a horse whenever she has time. She deserves some praise. After all, riding skills are literally a matter of life and death for Mia. If the worst come to pass, she can count on her loyal subordinates and her physical mobility. How well she rides a horse determines whether she might end up on the guillotine or not. As it turns out, the sword of Damocles can be a great source of motivation to learn a new skill.
Say, Vice Captain, if I had to, and this is completely hypothetical, mind you, run away and Captain Dion was chasing me, do you think I could make it past the Empire's border safely?
Well, that one.
Not a chance. Sorry to burst your bubble, but I'd be on you in half a day.
She raised her face to see that Dion turned around with a smile on his face. The smile on his face was friendly. So terrifyingly friendly.
So, friendly advice. If you want to elope with a cute boy and go abroad, you should make sure that I don't find out, okay? Or you'd better give yourself a very big head start.
Alright, enough with the teasing, Captain. That said though, if you train for another 10 years from now, I bet you'll be as good a rider as he is.
10 years, huh?
If history goes as written in the diary, the revolution will occur at the latest 5 years from now. Mia hung her head, depressed by the idea. The vice captain horse winked as if to comfort her.
Oh my, that horse.
Mia saw the horse in which the vice captain rode. The horse was beautiful with its supple, powerful, and dynamic muscles and the black and glossy coat that covered it.
It's a beautiful horse. The hair especially. The glow is wonderful.
Oh, princess, are you into horses? This one's definitely a beauty. You like its hair, right? I actually wash it using a special horse shampoo I ordered from abroad.
Is that so? For some reason, I feel a connection with it. It's as if there is something familiar between the two of us.
The horse looked sideways at Mia and huffed amicably. In about half a day, Mia and her group arrived at the entrance of the Sealence Forest. The Empire's Centuria set up a camp on a flat land a short distance from the forest. Makeshift tents lined up in an orderly manner, and a simple fence covered the area. The soldiers moved visibly from inside the fence. However, there was something else that grabbed Mia's attention and wouldn't let go. Mia couldn't quite put her finger on it, but the tension in the air gave off an unpleasant feeling.
Somehow, it seems like everyone is so on the edge.
Since your highness has arrived, it is natural for them to be nervous.
It's not that. This feels different.
A silent feeling of tension, just like the calm before the storm. There was an unsettling energy that buzzed everywhere, as though everything was moments away from bursting into flames. It was a sentiment that she had felt before.
It is like the atmosphere on the eve of the revolution. I see, your highness seems to have a good fighter sense. This is a battlefield. The soldiers are treating it as such. They have prepared their minds and hearts knowing that the battle can begin at any time, otherwise they will lose their lives. I see.
The situation seemed too harsh for Mia. These soldiers have to work themselves to the bone under such an oppressive atmosphere, and they have to follow orders from a terrifying man who saw humans as little more than heads to be chopped off.
I feel sorry for you, man. Does she now? If she can sympathize with the soldiers who are ordered under the whims of the nobles, then this princess may really be as wise as people say she is.
Fortunately, for Mia of course, while Dion might be a monster in the battlefield, he is no mind reader. His thoughts on the matter went no further, leaving him with a budding sense of respect for her.
Is it necessary to have the soldiers stationed here? Personally, I don't think so. If anything, just being here increases the risk of starting a fight. Thing is, we have orders to stay here. Even if we know it's better to pull out, we can't move without a good reason. A reason to withdraw.
Mia put a hand to her chin as the gears in her head began to turn. As she walked through the garrison, smiling and thanking the soldiers for their work, she continued to think.
A reason to withdraw.
A battle that is directly linked to her being sent to the guillotine is about to begin. In this situation where the crisis is burning like a flame, Mia's brain was on full throttle. She could almost hear the whistle of an overheated steam engine. Mia was thinking too hard that her gaze wandered around aimlessly. Whenever a soldier appeared in her view, she would smile reflexively before moving on. From the soldiers' perspectives, things were very different. When they saw her glowing skin, which owed its splendors to one's loving care, and her horse shampoo-enhanced hair that flowed like silk, decked out with such armaments of beauty, Mia was a force to be reckoned with. Right now, she looked better than she ever had. On top of that, the riding clothes she wore were decidedly aristocratic, instead exuding a plebeian air that was endearingly familiar to the onlookers. The way she looked into the distance, with eyes so lustrous they seemed almost glassy, it was enchanting, almost heavenly. She was the kind of princess that existed in the imagination of every young man, and not even all that training in the world could prepare Dion's elite troops for the firepower of her smile. Oh wow, how beautiful. Is that Her Highness, Princess Mia?
And she came here to personally meet with foot soldiers like us. It must be true what they are saying. She really is a saint.
Such whispers could be heard throughout the camp. These were the sides of the soldiers that were captured by Mia's beauty. Mia, however, noticed none of this as she was still deep in thought. There is a trump card that Mia can use, the privilege to be selfish. Most of the time, Mia's selfish demands are granted. A military order from the Black Moon Ministry could theoretically be overturned by a direct demand from the Emperor's daughter. While there was no end to the tragedies this privilege had caused in the previous timeline, in this specific case, it is a powerful weapon in her arsenal. Powerful, but not omnipotent. The question here was whether or not she could create the conditions on which she can be selfish and make her demand.
Easier said than done.
Asking for an expensive present was one thing, but requesting the withdrawal of the soldiers was another matter altogether. If she withdraws the soldiers without warning, should she just walk up to Dion and say it? And will Dion just follow her selfishness without question? The answer is probably no. And the vice captain would probably say, "Ha ha ha, are you pretending to be a general, Your Highness? You're pretty brave." It'll be over with a laugh, and they will think of it as nothing more than a child's babbling. She needed to mold the situation into one where it is perfectly acceptable to be selfish.
I wish there was a good way to do it.
Then Mia suddenly noticed, somehow the scenery around her seemed to have changed slightly. Looking up, she can see big tall trees, and it seems like there are just trees everywhere. She was in a deep forest, like in the story of Anne's sister, Elise. Before her, there seems to be a narrow trail made by animals, though she cannot see where it leads or ends.
Where are we? The forest, obviously. I mentioned earlier we were coming here. What? This is the front line. The front line? That's right, we might as well be in enemy territory already. But the battle hasn't started yet. I doubt they'll pop out and try murder us as long as we don't do anything.
She heard the first half of his sentence and freaked out, but the second half never made it into her ears.
Why in the heavenly moons would you bring me to a place like this? Just because I was deep in thought doesn't mean you can lead me to danger.
Even though it was an inspection visit, she had no intention of actually inspecting anything. Heck, she didn't even want to come to the garrison in the first place. Mia just came to stop any fighting from breaking out. That was all. Instead, here she was, standing in what was arguably the most dangerous place possible.
Oh, by the way, Your Highness, I'd recommend you to please avoid carelessly touching the things in the forest. What do you mean? The trees are sacred for the Lulus. They consider this whole forest as an important treasure given by God. If you so much scratch them, you can't complain if an arrow flies to your head, can you? I sure can. And what do you mean by an arrow flying to my head? That's terrifying.
Mia was scared and looked at the trees around her. She felt like she could see the men holding the arrows in the darkness. Her chicken heart started squawking loudly in her chest.
I guess I have seen enough. I'd like to go back to the cow and immediately.
She tripped over a thick protruding root and went down in an extravagantly boisterous fashion, landing with a loud thud. Your Highness, are you okay?
Are you injured anywhere? Would you please watch yourself, Your Highness? You're not in the capital anymore, you know.
Despite his pointed remark, he still extended a hand. Mia took it and pulled herself up.
It's that root's fault for sticking up like that. This stupid tree had to.
And that was when it clicked.
Yes, it's the stupid tree fault.
An evil grin spreads across her lips as she gazed up at the towering plant.
This is it for this video. We will continue with the story of the Guillotine Princess in the next episode. This was Brian and Marco from Jobless Weeps. Matane.